Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is episode 188 of Childcare Rockstar Radio, featuring me, Kris Murray. This episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio is sponsored in part by Trainual. My friends at Trainual want you to know that as a childcare center leader or owner, you know that running a successful operation requires more than just passion. It takes systems, and that's where Trainual comes in. Trainual is the all-in-one platform that helps you streamline operations, document processes, onboard new staff, and create training materials for your entire team. Whether you're focused on ensuring compliance or simply streamlining daily operations, Trainual saves you time while delivering consistency for your team, the children, and their parents. Want to see what it can do for you? Sign up for Trainual before December 31st, 2024, and receive 20% off an annual plan using the code ROCKSTAR20 at trainual.com/childcare. That's Trainual, TRAINUAL.com/childcare, and use the code ROCKSTAR20 to get 20% off your annual plan by the end of this calendar year, guys. Hey, folks, welcome back. I am very excited to welcome you in. This is a very special solo episode, and I'm going to be sharing with you a lot about my experience over the last few weeks, being the founder creator of the Childcare Success Summit, and what it was like for the very first year not to be running the show. What inspired this episode, which I have called What Would You Love, is that several of my coaches on the CCSC team came up to me before the event started, and they transparently shared that they were watching my journey and that it was touching their hearts because they wanted what they were seeing in terms of my transformation and what they were seeing in terms of my journey. They wanted for themselves, or they just were noticing how I've changed and improved. Potentially, I don't know about the word improve, but just how I've evolved into my next version, the next best version of me. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you start really focusing on what you love and what you would love to have in your life, and your life transforms into something new and fresh and different, it's almost like a rebirth of sorts. It's a new version of you that is showing up. And even you can start to look different. Eckhart Tolle talks about how as you continue to dive into your heart and let go of your ego and your fear, it shows up on your face, that you actually can reduce the signs of aging or just look younger because you're actually tapped into your heart and you're leading and living from an open heart space so much more than you were before. So whether you believe in these spirituality components that I've been teaching and talking about a lot over the last 2 to 3 years since my journey has dove into that part of it, or whether that's not really your cup of tea, that's okay. I invite you to listen to this podcast, no matter what you believe, and just be open. So my request to you is, if you listen to this podcast, or maybe you just stumbled across it and you're a new listener or viewer, and just open your heart space a little bit. So this episode is about me guiding you, coaching you, and helping point you back to parts of yourself that may not have been as open, that have been stopping or causing resistance to the things that you would love. Thus the title, What Would You Love? So in this episode, I'm going to first give some insider baseball. We just finished the World Series, so some insider baseball on what was going on behind stage and what were some of the impacts of what was going on at the Childcare Success Summit. Whether you were there or not, you will learn some business lessons from what I have to share. And then we're going to dive into what I called the power of possibility on my main keynote session that I opened the show with. Is I talked all about duality versus oneness and living inside of your box or inside of your story versus popping out to your next best version or the next big thing that you want to accomplish in your life or your business. So we're going to talk about that, the power of possibility. This will be different from the talk that I gave from main stage, but just some highlights of that to bring that back to you if you saw that live. And if not, you're going to learn some new cool stuff about thinking about the power of your next step and answering your next call in your life, playing a bigger game, as it were. And then I'm going to talk about the amazing Ben Nemtin. Just suffice it to say that I'll come back to that. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. And then finally, what would you love? And what would I love? And what I focused on that I would love and how it's actually shown up in my life. So I'm going to take you through some of that and then have you actually focus in on what you would love and to open your heart to, again, the next iteration, the next level of success for your business, the next space of having your teachers be more empowered and more loving to your students and your families, perhaps. Basically upping your game and how you're delivering childcare services to your clients. And maybe you want to go do something different, and talking to you about freeing yourself up for your next best version for whatever you want to accomplish in your life or whatever you've been dreaming about, but maybe been afraid to take the next step. So let's talk about the insider baseball of the Childcare Success Summit. This event has been in existence since 2012. And from stage, I shared how I actually answered the call originally for starting the business, and then how I answered the call to create the first summit event in 2012. And a lot of the difficulty that I went through personally, bringing it to life. Fast forward to 2024, which this is the 13th summit. This was by far, to me, the most vibrant, highest, just the energy, I'll say the energy of the audience and of the people that put this event on, which is my team and the speakers, was unparalleled. It's the best I've ever experienced. And that says a lot. That's saying a lot to the people that put on the event behind the scenes. As you can imagine, an event for 1,000 people, plus a trade show / sponsor hall, exhibit hall of 50 sponsors / vendors in the early childcare field. It's a lot to manage, guys. And not to mention all the hotel staff and the planning, the intensive months and months and months of planning. We flew out everybody on our team, and everybody pitched in, and everybody knew where they were supposed to be at any given moment. And then sometimes we had something happen that we needed to basically say, hey, we need all hands on deck, as you might imagine. So an example of that was this year, we had an issue with the gift bags, stuffing the tote bags, which was related to the timing that we had to get the bags done by, and the rooms that we had access to, and how early the hotel gives you access to different rooms and different components. And so we were kind of behind the 8 ball in getting all of these tote bag stuff. But we, our director of operations, Braylon, with Grace, got everybody together and we all dove in, and it was all hands on deck. And we have had, issues like that every single year come up that you can't plan for. Like, just stuff happens, right? This is like you putting on an open house, you putting on an event, you trying to do something big in your community, you showing up for the July 4th parade and not having a vehicle that works that everybody can ride on. So the kids have to walk or be in strollers. I mean, there's just, imagine all the things that you've done, opening your next location. You might be in the throes of that right now. And sometimes it can feel like the world is against you with all the things that can go wrong, that do go wrong, right? But I choose to see that as a path to growth. And I choose to see that as One of our t-shirts, one of our sweatshirts, one of our slogans, which is one of our Academy guiding principles, is trust the process. So if you've been at any of our meetings, you've seen at least one of us wearing a sweatshirt or a t-shirt that says trust the process. In fact, we've sold those shirts at the swag store before. Why do we say that? Because all the things that can be thrown in to take you off task when you're opening your next location, which is probably one of the biggest things that you do, again, can feel like, why is the world against me? And we've had so many even people on this podcast who are opening their next location. It was set to open on March 10th, 2020. And a week later, the world shut down. And so they went into months and months and months of losing money. And some didn't make it. And so why is that? You might be like, why is this happening to me? Why is the universe or God putting all of these obstacles in my path? So that's one way to look at it. We choose to look at it differently, which is trust the process. So I'll talk more about that and what that means later. But I wanted just to give you some of the behind the scenes baseball on, there's going to be things that go wrong, and having a team that is in a place of acceptance and loves each other and you have a good culture, you're going to all pitch in, you're going to be all hands on deck, and you're going to actually tighten up your connections to each other by getting through that together. So that can be one reason why these things happen, because it's an opportunity for you and your team to dive in and to grow together through some kind of a crisis. I want to also share that we hired a new event planner / executor, a team that was executing boots on the ground. And I want to share a little bit about what we've learned from that. So historically, we had two different companies that we were hiring. One we worked with from 2015 to 2020, 2021, and one we worked with from that point until last year. Basically, our event management team, boots on the ground. And our fees for that kind of a thing, again, insider baseball, we were paying anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000 for a third party to help us execute this event. What we had is an experience with both of those companies that they ended up growing to be not a fit for what we needed in executing the event, whether it was difference in philosophy, difference in the way that they plan, difference in what their expertise was versus what we needed, square peg, round hole. It just became not a fit. And so as a business owner or leader, you are going to experience this in some form or fashion. You are going to experience some vendor or some third party or some component of your leadership team that is going to turn into not being a fit. And so how long are you going to hold on to that and go through the pain of them not being a fit versus letting it go as quickly as possible? Fire fast, hire slow, fire fast, right? And find somebody that can save you money potentially, but is a much better fit in how they work, in what their values are, and what they can bring to the party, and then also what their unique brilliance is, but also what they charge. And for all those reasons, we let those companies go, and we found Anna. And Anna and her husband came to the summit, and this was their first year of working with us. And it was a beautiful fit. Not only did we save 5 figures of fees in saying goodbye to these large corporate companies and bringing on somebody who is an individual contributor, i.e. Anna, but doing things differently. And so I wanted just to share with you this story of how this year we said goodbye to working with those big corporate event planners and just streamline to do things differently and work with somebody that shared our philosophy and our way of doing things. And she was a total pro, and she's run many, many, many events just like ours, and some for some really big players in the internet marketing field, very well-known people. And so she came in and just ran our event seamlessly. So she was backstage with me and us in the green room and calling the show. So she'd be on mic, and how it works back there is that she's she's in the ear of the AV guys constantly throughout the entire day and guiding them to, here's the next thing, and here's the next, and play this music. And then this person's coming on stage, and then Jesse's going to do a game and da 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 da. That's the MC. So everything is monitored and seamlessly run through the ears and the eyes of Anna to the AV crew. And it's a beautiful, beautiful process, iteratively, on the fly, in the backstage area, in the green room, as you might imagine. So that's what's going on back there. If you ever wondered what's happening, is we have these amazing speakers come back there. So Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, she did an incredible keynote, and Ben Nemton and Latrice Galloway, the childcare chick, and they all did incredible sessions. And they were all back there ready to go when it was their time to go do their keynote and getting mic'd up. And we ran the show, and Anna and her husband ran the show. And so I just wanted to give you that and share that with you, because doing things differently. So the lesson, the writer downer for you, is how can you do things differently in your business? Where are things not a fit right now, and you have not had the time or the courage to step up and make the change? And so when you make space with what's not working and you say goodbye to that person potentially that's toxic on your team, or that parent who's causing toxicity in your classroom, and you say goodbye to that family and end that relationship with grace, or a third party, maybe it's a curriculum company, maybe it's a cleaning company, whatever. Whatever's not serving you right now, I want you to look at it, and I want you to embrace with me in an open-hearted way to do things differently, and be brave and let go of that thing that's a square hole round peg, and do things differently, and just be open to the next solution. And we, like I said, not only was it a better solution for us, and it also showed up in the energy in the summit, because when all of us are feeling that very confident, beautiful, loving energy in all parts of the execution of this event, the energy that is flowing into the audience can feel it. You guys can feel when we have a company that's trying to execute our event that's not a fit, and the people on the team are stressed, you guys immediately feel it. And your parents can feel it. So if you think that they don't feel the fact that you have this toxic teacher or a leader that's leading in a way that isn't meeting your core values, and you need to let go of that director, you would be mistaken to think that your parents aren't potentially also looking around to think about, where else can I pull my child and go somewhere else, because the energy at this school is off. So I want you to remember this and dive into it. If you need to dive into it today, this is your wake-up call to dive into it today. All right. So that's some inside baseball that I wanted to apply to your business for you, because we learned a lot with it and save money. So win, win, win. The second thing is the power of possibility. So what I shared from stage on my keynote is I talked a lot about getting the call, getting the original knock on the door from the universe, from God, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe, and getting that call, surprise, surprise, during a yoga class, and taking the call, going home with these words, childcare, that came in during the quiet time of yoga at the end of the class, and taking action on it, even though I didn't know what in the world it meant. And so I did go home on that fateful day in late May, roughly mid to late May 2007. And I went home and I answered the call, and I Googled childcare, and I found a business that sold how to start a daycare kits online to aspiring women, mostly, and men who wanted to start a center-based or home-based childcare business. And it was the leading business, the leading website at that time to provide home daycare startup kits and all the licensing and all that information to the world via the internet. And I bought that business. So my seed capital when I started my business was $15,000. And I have turned that $15,000 investment, and that's the only seed capital that I had. Other than that, I was just using credit cards. And I funded the business with cash, because shortly after that, it was during the recession, And my ex-husband and I had to let go of all of our real estate, our rental properties that we had bought because they were upside down. And we had a bunch of foreclosures, and I had bad credit, and I couldn't get any credit cards or anything to fund the business. So all I had was the ability. I had my ability to create business content and sell into the space to get clients. And away we went. And I created a multi-million-dollar business out of a $15,000 investment of seed capital. And that was it. Period. The end. And everything else was cash. That I basically took all the cash that the business was kicking off, other than what I needed to live on for me and my kids, and put it back and reinvested in the business and grew the business organically. So if I had not believed in the power of possibility that I actually could do that, even though I was scared beyond belief and had imposter syndrome beyond belief because I'd never owned a daycare, but I decided to dive in anyway with wet pants. And I told that from stage. And so many people came up to me and they were like, do it with wet pants. Do it afraid. If you're going to pee your pants anyways, just do it with wet pants and just do it anyway. And so that really resonated when I shared that live from Chicago. So I wanted to share it again with you, because if you weren't there, you will benefit from hearing that and maybe get some inspiration for whatever you're facing right now that's keeping you stuck. What we talked about on the flip chart was I basically drew a box, and I drew a line through the box diagonally, and I said positive, negative. So on each side, inside your box, you have positive and negative always going on. Things will happen that are positive in your life. Things will happen that aren't so positive or that are even tragic in your life. And you'll go on these highs and lows, because inside of your story or inside of your box, there's duality. And so for every positive reaction, there's a negative reaction. For every happy, there's a sad. For every yes, there's a no. For every light, there's a dark. For every hot, there's a cold. And so what you want to do is actually jump outside of your box or your comfort zone or your ego. Those are all in the things that represent inside the box, because your ego wants to keep you safe and secure, right? So he wants to keep you in that place of duality where you ping pong around, but you're safe in there. That's your comfort zone, guys. And so what I shared was the power of possibility is when you go step outside the box or step outside of your comfort zone, or you shift out of ego and into a place of open-heartedness and love, you transform and transcend the box, and you actually become the new version. And so all the power in your life and the things that have really opened you up to becoming that next stronger version of you have been when you've stepped outside of your box and you've been willing to go there. And sometimes it's a place of surrender, and sometimes it's a place of excitement and creativity, because you might get this idea. Like I got this download in yoga class, and I was like, what am I going to go do with this? Let's go dive into some creativity and create a business. But you did this. You created a childcare business. And when you did that, you probably did it with wet pants. But you answered the call. And so you've done this already. But then what happens is that life pulls you back inside of your box. And so I'm here to remind you that you're in your box when you're ping-ponging around with fear and avoidance and all of these low emotions. And then you go back up to gratitude, then you come back down to jealousy and hatred and rage. And then you go back up to joy and love, and you're going back and forth. But I want you to just be aware that that's all your story. Your story of your life is happening inside this box, but that's not really the real you. The real you is the essence of the divine. It's you as the big you. It's you as the ocean, not the drop. And these concepts I've also been studying and practicing. And so I've become my next version. And so my next version is the founder, but not having to run the day-to-day, right? So this is my first summit that I actually was able to lean on and let go of all control, lean on Jennifer Connor and the team, because I had nothing to do with the actual day-to-day operations and even the planning of the schedule of the event. Last November 1st, 2023, I stepped down as CEO and became the pure founder / strategic advisor of the company. And I shared that journey with you all along these episodes of the podcast. And this was the first summit event with 1,000+ people that I was able just to show up as the pure founder and keynote speaker. And I was so much lighter. So if you were there and you're also feeling me on this podcast and you're going, yeah, compared to earlier versions, I mean, go back and listen to episode 10 or even episode 1, The Beauty of Persistence of this podcast. We didn't have video at that time, so you just have to listen on Spotify or wherever. Listen to that and now listen to me now. And you will know that I am my next version. I've probably gone through at least 3 different versions since that time. So I'm a much lighter, neutral, glowing, loving, present version. And what I was going to say is the studying of both Eckhart Tolle, one of the world's top leaders in spiritual teaching, 2 books, Power of Now and New Earth, beloved by Oprah. So I worked with him in his Teacher of Presence program for an intense 6 months. And then I have been working with Amir Zogi, who also is on this podcast. And his philosophies are what I'm sharing with you today, a lot of the philosophies that I am living now, working with him, like the ocean versus the drop and the story of the box. But then the oneness, if there's duality in the box, positive, negative, for every action, there's a reaction, right? Outside of the box is oneness. And when you tap into your oneness and you leave your ego behind and you flow into this higher version of you, or you step out of that comfort zone and you experience these new experiences, then you're not afraid because you left the ego behind. You're becoming the ocean instead of that small little drop. So these are the things that my coaching team, to bring it all back, these are the things that my coaching team was asking me and telling me behind the scenes at the summit. Was like, we're watching you. We see you. You're different. And clients tell me this a lot too. You're different. We're watching your journey. We're watching the evolution of the next best version of you because we can feel that you're different. And so by me modeling this to them and to you, I'm helping you have the courage to dive in to where your life really wants you to go. And it's not even your life. It's really the higher calling, the higher universe, God, the divine, where that really wants you to go. That you may be resisting because you're afraid to play big and you're afraid to step out, which is very normal. But I'm here to tell you it's okay. And in fact, you must, because you're shutting short, you're stopping short the people in your life and the people that you can inspire. When you step into that next version of you, you will inspire so many people that you have no idea who you will inspire in your direct community, in your circle. You've got parents, you've got children, you've got teachers, you've got leaders, and you have friends that are industry friends. And you might even have like licensing friends or people that you deal with from the state or elsewhere. You have potentially advisory committees that you sit on and advocacy groups. And these are all people that are potentially in your influence. And I know a lot of you guys don't want to think of yourselves as influencers, but you don't need to. But this brings me to my next point, which is Ben Nemtin. So Ben Nemtin, Nemtin, find him on YouTube, guys. If you missed his talk, this is the caliber of speaker that we have come to the summit, is somebody who has lived an extraordinary life on their own terms for whatever they've accomplished. And they bring a story or they bring an experience or a set of adventures or a lesson to the audience, and it touches their heart so deeply, and it brings them into a place where they're stepping in to what I'm talking about, which is outside the box. And Ben Nemtin beautifully had this commonality and the silver thread to what I'm talking about with his story. So his whole story is figure out what you really want to accomplish or what you want to achieve or what you want to experience in your life and write it down and actually keep a bucket list journal. This is Ben's bucket list journal. If you're watching me on YouTube, you can see me hold this up on camera. And he gave me my very own copy. And he talked about crafting a life, an intentional life built on dreams that you're too scared to even imagine that they could come true. One of his dreams with his friends that did this practice and this whole adventure was playing basketball with President Obama. And he talks about the experience of making his dreams come true. And he wrote in the inside of my journal to keep dreaming, and he signed it. And so I'm using this because you guys know that I'm a bucket list person, right? So I've had my dream journal and I've talked about my dream journal, and everything that I'm doing in my life now is tied back to what I have written down in my dream journal, AKA bucket list. Some of which I have not been able to accomplish, like meeting Arnold. I really want to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just want to get a hug from the guy, nothing more, nothing less, and shake his hand, say hello. That's all I really want. So if you're listening to this podcast and you have an in to Arnold, because I've had many people reach out and let him know that I'm a huge fan and I just want to meet the guy. But I'm not giving up on that dream. I just have to go about it a different way. And what's on your bucket list, guys? So it seems cliche and it might even seem cheesy, but crafting the life that when you're on your deathbed and you can look back at your life and say, I lived well. I loved well. I lived fully. I made a difference. I had a hell of a good time. Whatever the important things are for you. And those are the things that I really want to be able to say when I'm laying on my deathbed. What are you waiting for? This is the youngest that you will ever be. 5 seconds has gone by. You were younger when you first started listening to this podcast, which was 40 plus minutes ago. And so what are we doing? So this is, again, a wake-up call to listen to your wake-up call. And Ben Nemtin, again, couldn't have supported this idea, this content that I brought better than it's incredible. And there was not a dry eye in the house. He made us laugh. He made us cry. He touched our hearts. And so I want you to, if you feel to, want to take it to the next level, you can go on Amazon and look for Ben Nemtin's bucket list journal and grab one for yourself and maybe grab one for your teammates or your teachers and start talking about this concept, these ideas that I'm sharing with you. Start talking about doing things differently. The power of possibility, duality versus oneness, positive, negative, answering the call, coming out of your box or your life story. Those are the things that are limiting you in your mindset. But if you can see that you could actually have anything that you want in your life, but what's keeping you stuck is that you don't actually believe it, or you go, well, how? Show me how that can actually happen, and then I'll believe it. Guess what? The universe isn't going to give you the how. It wants you to actually take the leap, to throw your heart over the wall, because it wants to see that you're committed to the journey before it will give you the how. And the how will show up after you say yes, after you take the leap, after you jump off that cliff. As you're falling, it will give you that limb to grab and keep you from the chasm at the bottom, and it will give you the how. But you got to take the leap first. It doesn't work the other way. If you're waiting for the answer and waiting for the how to show up before you actually take the leap and go outside of your box, it's never going to happen. And that's the sad truth of it. So if Ben Nemtin and his buddies said, we're not going to put playing basketball with President Obama on our list, that's crazy talk. How's that going to happen? But they didn't say that, did they? They just kept believing and they kept going at it in a different way. And I do believe that I will meet Arnold Schwarzenegger just because I keep putting it out there. It's going to show up, whether it's on a random private jet or I'm going to Sun Valley, Idaho, and I'm going to go smoke cigars with some guy and Arnold will be there. I don't know. It's going to happen. So the lesson there is just you got to go after the things in your life that matter for a life well lived. Have a bucket list, write it down, do the work. It's fun, and start planning. At least what I plan is at least 2 or 3 things every year, sometimes more, that were on my bucket list that I actually put on the calendar and I plan them. This year was Burning Man and Australia and Ecuador. So I did 3. And I'm going back to Italy. I'm going to a spiritual retreat with my daughter. That one wasn't necessarily on the list, but certainly that you could see that as something. Also with my niece and my sister-in-law. So all 4 of us are going the first week of December to Amir Zogi's Italy retreat. And I'm very excited to do that with my daughter and with my other girl posse of my family members. So very excited about that. So yeah, there's one other thing that I have on my bucket list, which is to have a fulfilling, amazing love relationship. And I actually wrote it down. I'm looking at it right now on my 2024 goals and dreams card that is stuck on my computer monitor. So, and yes, if you pause that, you could probably see the rest of what's on there. One thing got crossed off, but the rest of them I'm basically hitting. Fulfilling, amazing love relationship is on there. Because on January 1st, when I wrote that 2024 goals and dreams card, I wasn't seeing anyone and I wasn't in a love relationship. Guess what? Guess what happened, guys? I had a total vibe from my intuition. I had a total intuitional hit against answering the call to get on Bumble of all things. I don't know why. I kept ignoring it. Last June, my inner knowing was like, get on Bumble, get on Bumble, get on Bumble. And I was like, oh, be quiet. I don't need to be on Bumble. And it would not be quiet. And so I got on Bumble. I'm like, fine. I hear you. Fine, universe. I'll get on Bumble. Lo and behold, 6 months later, almost to the day, I met the love of my life on Bumble. So his name is Kris. Kris and Kris, I know. We have nicknames so that we don't get confused by people calling us Kris and Kris. But Christopher is an executive chef and he's amazing. And he loves me so much. And I love him so much. And we're having an incredible relationship. We're almost 10 months in. It's been beautiful and fun and joyous. And it's a fulfilling, amazing love relationship, just like I wrote down on my dream card, my goals card. So I wanted to share that with you because having an open heart and being open to listening to your intuitional voice and then actually doing it when your intuition tells you to go do something, you do it, like get on Bumble, even though you're like, this is ridiculous. And then things happen because you're listening to your intuition, guys. It may be stronger for women. I don't know. I think women have more practice at it, and that's all. And my guidance to you is to, if you want to have the best life ever, you got to listen to your intuition and to that inner voice. It is part of the divine. It is a divine voice. The voice of God is telling you to go do something. What can I tell you? This is my experience. So you take it or leave it. But the title of this podcast is What Would You Love? So my question to you to close out this podcast is to have you focus on what would you love? What would you love in your life? And be open-hearted instead of thinking immediately, if you think, well, how's that going to happen? So you start second guessing what you would love, or you immediately say, but that's not going to happen, or, but I'm not good enough for that to happen. Or, if that self-talk is there and you're in dissonance, or you're in a place where it's not aligned in your inside and the energy that's in your body, it's not going to happen. So the reason why you might be thinking, well, I have focused on what I would love and it's not showing up, it's because you don't really believe that you deserve it, or you're wondering if it's really going to happen because you don't believe it, or you're wondering how the heck is that going to happen? You got to pull back on that. You just got to focus on what I would love, hold it in your heart, don't question it, and wait for it to show up with confidence. And it may take 2 years, it may take 2 weeks, it may take 10 years. Probably not. If you're fully open-hearted about it and you focus on what you would love. And so what did I focus on that I would love? My love relationship, my role at CCSC, being able to say, I don't want to be CEO anymore, and having somebody come who can take over the reins beautifully with strength. And I talked about it on my last solo episode I did from Hawaii, which was a March, I think it was a late March release on the podcast. You can look for that. It's called my solo episode from Hawaii, or what I learned in Hawaii on my journey, solo travels in Hawaii. I talked about Jennifer Connor and how she's taken on the role of CEO so beautifully and allowed me to free myself up in time and energy and focus into the next best version of me. And so this is possible for you. If you're a business owner and you've been running your childcare business for decades, and it's time for you to go into a different phase in your life and have a different version, or if you would just love to have a different life, I'm fully giving you permission. Put that in your heart and say, what I would love is to exit. Here's how I'd like to exit. Here's how I think I can exit. You can use this as coaching and coaches to help you exit. But guys, again, we're not getting any younger, and this is not a dress rehearsal. So focus on what you would love. So I identified 3 things at the beginning of 2024 that I would love. I'd love an amazing, fulfilling love relationship. I would love a great journey as my new role at CCSC as being a founder, which frees up my life. And it allowed me to be able to dive into my bucket list and see the world, go to Burning Man, do these cool things that I've always wanted to do. And as a result, the other thing that I've been wanting to do is offer a new flavor or version of coaching of myself as coach, one-on-one coaching, and creating a group community of my new group that want to be awakened leaders and awakened entrepreneurs. They want to have that spiritual awakening component that I've been talking about on this episode and much over the last year, as well as the business skills, the business things that I can help you bring, marketing, running your business, having a great scalable team, using the EOS model, so many things that I bring to you as a business coach and have done for the last 15 years. But never before have I combined the business badassery that I can have you grab and just take your business to new heights that you didn't even know were possible. But combining it with the awareness piece, the conscious piece, being a conscious leader, a conscious CEO, conscious entrepreneur, is going to take you beyond what you ever could have imagined. So, and this isn't just for childcare. This is for general audience. Anybody who wants to be an awakened leader, feel more light, free in your life, and have better relationships, but especially the relationship with yourself. That's where it all starts. So that's the work that I'm going to start doing with a small group of clients. And I am just putting out my shingle now. So consider this my first opportunity that if you're interested in working with me directly, one-on-one or in a group or both, and hopefully by the time this podcast airs, krismurray.com will be ready and up. It's currently in the works and close to launching, but it's not launched yet. So you can always find me on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is I am Kris Murray. And you can always reach out and DM me on those platforms, and I will answer if you want to work together. And that's it. So I'm excited. I'm excited for my next version, for taking on new clients, for helping people do awakened leadership, and for you to dive in on these concepts that you've learned on this podcast or that have touched your heart, made you open up, crack open just a little bit wider, Think about what you would love. Just what I would love to have in my life is from an open-hearted place. And that's the real work, is just to be open and not worry about the how. Okay? Being the ocean, tapping into your infiniteness. There is a version of you that's the ocean, not just the drop. It's outside of your box. Okay? And the ego gets smaller, and the ego stops having you be afraid. So if you want to live a bigger, bolder, more beautiful life and have less fear in your life, that's what this journey is about. So check us out. Check me out. It's just a me right now. There is no us. It's just me. That's it. Shout out to everybody that helped us at the summit, and to Ben Nemtin and Layla Ali and Latrice and, our whole team, to Anna, our amazing event coordinator / mastermind. She was amazing. Event awesomeness, Miss Anna. And I'm shouting out you for listening to this podcast, for giving yourself the time to spend time. It's not just a luxury, guys, to spend time on working on yourself and your life. The people who are living the most fulfilled, fun, most loving lives are doing this work. So kudos to you for being on the path with me. Can't wait to see where you take it. This has been Child Care Rockstar Radio. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Take care and God bless. I hope you liked this episode of Child Care Rockstar Radio. If you did, please leave a review and share it with someone you know to help spread the word to friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, I've got a new video training that shows you how to add 6 figures or more of new revenue to your program in the next 60 days by improving your hiring and your enrollment systems. To watch my new video, just go to www.fixmyschool.com. That's fixmyschool.com. Thanks. Take care and God bless.